They love the numbers guy.
You might have to tell them I'm staying around, they need to stick around.
Exactly, we're gonna advertise you next.
They love the numbers guy.
Yep.
Yeah, they do. They really do, Tom.
Put that on the next announcement.
You're the guy.
I guess Tom Baker. Gonna sing a song or something.
I don't know if you want me singing this song.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
All right, committee come to order. This is a meeting of the Littlestown Area Board of School Directors. This is a live, in-person meeting taking place in public in accordance with the Sunshine Act. By attending and/or commenting publicly in this meeting, you are consenting to recording, retention, and future meeting participation. Mary, would you please call the roll?
Janelle Ressler.
Here.
Mary Groneman. Here. Nick Lovell.
Here.
Stephen Yerker.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. There is no public comment, so I will turn it over to Dr. Berryman.
So the first part of our agenda, under A, we have 4 handbooks that I would like to bring to you for recommendation to the full board. The first one is the 2025-2026 Littlestown Middle High School Student Handbook. So had worked with Kara and Andrew this year to have them condense and combine the handbook for the middle school and the high school. Looking forward to when we are all in one building. So they did a lot of work on that throughout the year. You will see that even though they took a lot of work to combine those 2 handbooks, on the summary sheet, do you have the summary sheet? I have it. Thank you. They didn't really make a whole lot of changes in the overall handbook. So, a new table of contents to make sure everything was lined up. They did a lot of formatting changes, a lot more links embedded so that parents can just click on it if it's a middle school form or PBIS, they can just click right on those links. If it's pertinent to the high school, they can click on those links. We received guidance from Saxon and Stump, I have to always make sure I change that name now, of what policies need to be in our handbook. So we went through, made sure all those policies were added into, and you'll see that that is really the only revision change in the elementary handbook when we get to that. We also have a signature page for AUP, and then also the media opt-out and discretionary meds for when kids can self-administer for like that. And then also made sure that the PBIS criteria for the middle school is also. So those are the only big changes in the handbooks, but they did a really nice job of combining those two. Any questions on that? And then again, with Alloway Creek, just some formatting things that was cleaned up at that end, but the only overall change that they really had was adding all those policies that we were advised to have in our handbook. That was the only revisions we made. Do you have any questions on this topic?
I have a question necessarily for the handbook. I'm just thinking about, we have one cafeteria and 2 schools coming together for lunch. Are some of the middle schools going to have to eat lunch with the high school, high school? How's that going to work?
So we're still working out schedules, but one of the things we looked at is having 6th grade eat first. And then if 7th and 8th has to be in the cafeteria at the same time as 9 through 12, that it would be one half of the cafeteria, you know, and
Yeah.
big alleyway. They do have to be served at different times because middle school kids are only allowed a certain portion versus high school kids. And there's no way for us to get around that. Like, we talked to the state about it and Chartwell's, and we have to abide by and come to the head because it falls under him.
Yeah.
We have to abide by, like, I'm just gonna make this up because this is how we did it in our heads. So like a high school kid might be allowed 8 chicken nuggets, but a middle school kid's only allowed like 6 chicken nuggets. So the portion control is different, so they
But they
have.
can go up by seconds.
And à la carte.
Roll up.
And à la carte. But there are requirements set by the state as to portion control, so we have to abide by that. So even if they would be in the cafeteria at the same time, we would have the sides separated
Okay.
out, keeping 9 to 12 more toward where the learning commons is going to be, and they do have to go through the lines at separate times. So we might do some staggered lunches as well, like where maybe 7th and 8th comes in, and then our first wave of high school kids come in like maybe 15 minutes later, and they're sitting on this side, and then these kids would leave.
Okay. That's
Good
fine.
question.
Well, I'm just thinking like, I know this right now, 6, 7, 8, all these separate. So 7, 8, you know, together is fine. And I think, but then you have 7 times 10, 11.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
The other thing is, a lot of seniors are in and out of the building.
Sure.
So we don't have as many seniors that are
Right.
eating. Like, we did check the capacity of the high school. I don't have that number off the top of my head. 380 is kind of sticking in there, but I'm not 100% on that number. So we do have the capacity to fit in there.
That's fine.
You know, I think, because it's changed since I was there, and you might not know this, and Dr. Mitchell can correct me if I'm wrong. 7 to 8 are taking their things down for lunch.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
So,
Oh.
Because they have mixed
My other guys
classes.
went there and
Yeah.
they did not great. Okay.
Some of that's because of the electives that they do now.
Yeah.
So if they, depending on their electives and what math class they're in sometimes as well. 7 to
Okay.
8, yes.
so I think this team has done a good job with things like the electives,
Yeah.
lunchtime, and all that stuff, getting our middle school students to make sure they're getting ready for high school like this area.
Good. That's great. Sorry, I didn't get off track, but looking
No.
at the schedule, I'm like,
No,
Okay.
that's a great question, so I'm glad you asked it. The 2025-2026 athletic student parent handbook and the athletic coach handbook, the only things that changed in those handbooks were the dates, and obviously now with,
Sure.
okay, we did receive, I had to stop myself because I wasn't sure, it is posted. So our athletic director accepted a position at Boiling Springs and was board approved. So we did go through, knowing that that was coming through, and did some TBDs on here so that when the new athletic director is hired, we can put that information into the handbook. But other than that, there were no, those handbooks took a huge overhaul, either last summer or the summer before, like we really took a look at those and did a lot of work. So those, both of those should be in the shoot as well. Any questions on those?
Is the committee in favor of moving the handbooks forward to full board for approval?
yes.
Yes.
All right. The minute you've all been waiting for. I know Janelle has it.
Yep.
Okay. So we had our spring diagnostic, and what you're going to see here is a lot of bar graphs and line graphs. But I also think you'll see a lot of good things, and then there are a couple of areas that we, will be looking at as far as areas that we need to continue to work on. So this will be our spring data. We're going to compare it to our fall data. And we'll also be looking at some national data. And while Carrie has that up there, I am also going to have it on my screen because I will not be able to see those numbers. So if you see me looking down at my computer, I apologize. So the first slide here is grades K to 5. And these numbers, and this will be attached to the minutes when they come out too, so you can really dive into it and see it more. But the third column in each of these bar graphs, so K, if you look at the very right, that is our spring district data. And then the middle column is the national year-to-date of all iReady. Okay, so if you just look at kindergarten for right now, across the nation, any student in kindergarten who took iReady spring diagnostics they were at 48%, which meant that they were at, that dark green is at mid or above grade level. And you'll see that our kindergartners came in at 64% were at or above grade level. And then the light green is like early on grade level. Yellow is 1 grade level below. The light red is 2 grade levels below, and the dark red is 3 grade levels below. So as you go across, our data is pretty much in line. Like first grade is higher than the national, second grade's higher, third grade's higher than the national, fourth grade, fifth grade, you see a dip. The national is 29%, and right now we're sitting at 20%. So, like, and I know that you work in iReady a little bit. So, like, when we, as a team, internally this summer, what we'll do is take a look at, we can actually drill down into the domains of all the math, and like, where are the kids struggling? Like, is it in the algebraic concepts? Is it in numbers and operations? Is it in the geometry? So then we can make some curricular decisions when we really drill down into that data. Do we need professional development? Do we need to look at instructional practices? So that's what the building, so the ACES, and then Courtney, Kara, and I will take a look at this summer, really drilling down into that. I do think something to point out too is you can see kindergarten, we don't have any.
It'll come back up soon.
Yeah.
When it does come back, you will see that even for the percentage of kids that we have like 1 grade level or 2 grade levels behind, obviously we don't want our kids behind on grade levels, but our percents are pretty in line with where the national average is right now. That doesn't mean that we say, okay, well, we're with the national average. It's all those things that I just said. It's still looking at, you know, drilling down and what do we need to change, and looking at some of that to make some decisions.
Yeah, that fifth grade was interesting to me because when we were on the steering committee for, you know, looking at the math and things, and even having some of the teachers there from the middle school, they were saying like, what is happening in the middle school? But that, you know, numbers are dropping, but maybe it's that fifth grade year.
It was 5 to 8.
5 to 8.
This was the kind of window.
Yeah, and that seems to be on a trend with what.
Yeah.
And when this comes back up, you'll see a little bit of that trend as well. With 8th grade, 6th and 7th grade data looks, you know, pretty much in line with the national average, and their growth from fall to spring, and it's really nice.
Yeah, one factor
It'll
in
come
that
up.
too is that the fifth grade, and this has been said, so I apologize for just sharing again, but the fifth grade assessment, out of all of the PSSA assessments, fifth grade and 8th grade are the most challenging in those grade ranges, because they are exiting PSSA tests or assessments. So they are typically across the board, nationally and first within the state, they are the lowest of all PSSA schools of all grades, fifth and eighth. Yeah, that trend has been since 2015.
Yeah, I was gonna take a look at you, but yeah.
That's PSSA, and that's based on the change in the standards prior to 2015 and the change over in 2015.
I have one or two of it, just the kids just don't care, and they're just, they're kind of done
Well,
with it at that point.
It's
You
dangerous.
don't know, you'll never know for
Yeah,
sure.
it's very dangerous to get into a situation where you start to give reasons for test scores, because then you narrow your focus into only that. Keeping your options open and understanding that it may be a number of different things allows you to provide interventions for those different areas.
and I will say, with one thing that we did that we've started I want to say in the last year or so, you guys, even when I was the principal or assistant principal, we talk about, so what's different when they get to the high school and, and I always say they don't all of a sudden learn math, right? And they don't all of a sudden know all the standards of literature. But one of the things that's different is, and Nick, you can probably attest to this, not being out, not being so far from up there, is that they talk about the PSENs all the time. Like, we constantly, consistently talk about PSENs up there. And not about teaching to the test. It was never about that. But this is what you're going to see. This is how you would attack a problem, which is all part of our curriculum, because state standards are aligned to our curriculum, aligned to the test. So it was very transparent, spoken about, communicated about, and for a number of years, it wasn't necessarily the top priority, K to 8, because they were really looking at growth data, looking at all that math data. So one of the things we're changing is how are we talking to kids about these tests so that they know what to expect, they're not anxious when they take them, like if they're not looking at something they've never seen before. So, and that seems like a small thing, but it's a really big thing if the kid's like, well, I'm going to take this test and I don't think I've ever seen anything like it before. So the more we can help them mimic what it is they're going to see and practice it, it's like, practice like you're playing, a sports analogy. If you never practice your pitching and then you go out and you're the starting pitcher, well, you're probably not going to do so well. So really changing the culture of that. Before we lose internet again. So then this is where you see the comparison, and they don't do a kindergarten comparison, but looking at 1st through 5th grade, you can see the gains that the kids have made. So, we talked about 5th grade being only at that 20%, but they were only starting at 6 in the fall. And so while that is still like not where we want to be, that's a 14% gain. Yeah, so, and if it doesn't have a percent in, it's less than 1%. So you see in 2nd grade, at the beginning of the school year, they had less than 1% of their kids at or above grade level. And at the end of 2nd grade, they had 30% of their kids there. 3rd grade had like 10%, and they went up to 37%. If you take a look at 3rd grade, they had 28% of their kids at 2 grade levels below, and 8% at 3 or more grade levels below. So 36% of their kids, and you guys thought Tom was the numbers guy. And then, so they went from 36% of their kids being 2 to 3 grade levels below to 5%. So, like, that speaks volumes to what we're doing with our curriculum and our instruction here. Because you're not going to get that type of gains without making sure you're doing very targeted interventions, small group differentiation, that type of thing. Now, again, speaking of 5th grade, we still have to take a look at, like, how are we running our small groups in 5th grade? How are we running our interventions? How much time are those kids getting? How are we differentiating? So all of those things are still part of the conversation.
This might be a basic question. In the spring diagnostic, are they testing where they should be, or excuse me, fall? Are they testing where they should be in the beginning of that grade level, or are they testing where they should be at the end of that?
Okay.
And at the end of the school year, they're testing where they should be at the end? Okay.
So this is on math, by the way. I think I might have forgotten to say that at the beginning. So this is all their math data. And then just a really nice, just a really nice graphic. If you look at the overall math data for K to 5, you'll see, so looking at the green, in the spring, we are at 207 kids who are on grade level, either early grade level or above grade level. So 207 up from 31. At the beginning of the year, we had 31 kids in that boat. And so then even if you look at, I pointed out the grade levels below, we had 25 students end the school year 2 or more grade levels below where they had started with 49 kids in that predicament. And then normally, so the yellow is what I find intriguing because yellow is 1 grade level below. So a lot of times you would think that that band of yellow would be even larger, you know, but they actually skipped over the yellow into the green in this school year. So we have kids that have definitely made more than 1 year's worth of growth this year. Because if you think about it, if they only made 1 year, that yellow band in the spring would be longer. But instead, they went up to at least early grade level. So, a lot of progress we have. It's going in the right direction. We're to go in the day. Okay, so then the reading data going next, and sticking with elementary here, so K to 5, starting with national data and then our data. So again, we look really good compared to the national percentiles. The only one, again, that we do not is in 5th grade where you see that dip. The national is at 24 and we're sitting at 19. But again, then if you do the 2 green bands together, so the lighter green is like really early on grade level. So we're at 41 and the national's at 44. So not terribly behind. Yeah.
So this one we got first.
No, this isn't a comparison yet. This is just national. That's the next slide.
It's just national.
Yeah, that's the next slide. So we keep an eye on that 19, because then when we get to the next slide, that will be the spring data, and then the fall will be on the left side of that. So again, we're also decreasing our kids that are 2 and 3 years behind, but I think that's more visible on the next slide. Carrie, can you take this slide? So Nick, to your point, so there's that 19%. Again, they started at the beginning of the year with 9% of their kids at or above grade level. So we went from 30 to 41% in 5th grade. Yeah, and I was, so 1st grade again, like less than 1% of our kids are at grade level behind. Any questions when you're reading these? Okay. And then this one is the same as we did with math. It's just a really nice comparison to be able to see where we ended up with how many students in each of those bands versus where we started at the beginning of the school year. So if you think at the beginning of the school year, we started with 60 kids, K to 5, that were at mid or above grade level.